U.S. Bank and most of the other banks are all lending, have a lot of money to lend, or looking to do deals, looking to be creative and find ways to get deals done. And there's plenty of capital and lots of liquidity in the market for good real estate projects. Hold on, before I answer that, I gotta look like Stuart here a little bit. So, the interest rates are still great. What we're seeing, I think you should expect that the long-term perm rates are going to go up with the Fed activity, and they're going to end the tapering. But what they're saying is the short-term rates are going to stay low for a while. That's primarily what we lend off, is the LIBOR rate. And LIBOR is at an all-time low. It's been low. It's a whopping 25 basis points. So then the spreads from there can be anywhere from 200 to 3.5%. Well, I think retail is really one property type that you have to do a lot of due diligence, and you really have got to do some homework. And it's one asset that they're not looking to take a lot of spec risk. There needs to be solid economics in place, really good leasing, long-term leases, well-structured leases, and the leverage or the amount of debt that you're putting on the projects is probably backed off from what we've seen in the past. And so I think it's a little more conservative approach to what we've seen in the past. Well, you prefer not to have any of that in a deal. And if you talk to a credit guy, he would tell you don't do them. Don't agree to them. Don't have them in your leasing. But the reality of the situation is that there is some leverage. You know, with the tenants, they have some leverage, and you may have to do some of that to get a deal done. And so what we do at U.S. Bank is we try to quantify that risk, and then we look for ways to mitigate the risk. I think a couple things that people can do to mitigate that risk is if you're in an existing center, to really understand what the sales are, how the tenants are doing. And we've been able to get comfortable with some co-tenancy on some deals that we've done just recently, because we had good sales numbers and we knew that those tenants weren't going anywhere. It seems to me like every Christmas season the retail market changes, and there's always something kind of new, and there's always a new trend. And I think this season was no different. And it seems to be a time when they sort out the winners and the losers. And you're always really looking at who are the tenants in a center, how are they doing. You kind of track a lot of the national credit tenants. And there's certain tenants which end up on the list, they'll end up on the lender's list as tenants that you want to avoid, or you want to be really careful, or you want to limit your exposure to those tenants. I think we'll see the retail activity pick up, lending activity. But today, to get a deal done, you'd have to have very little spec space. You'd have to, if it's a big box center or if it's got major tenants, you'd really have to have long-term leasing, great leasing, and if there are kickouts or any kind of co-tenancy, you would want to find ways to mitigate that risk by either maybe it's a lower leverage, you back off the loan amount, so that if there was a tenant that vacated, you'd have some flexibility from the cash flow from the rest of the center to maneuver.